What's up, everybody? So when you say you're going to be honest about these games, in my case, football games, right? You have to be completely honest. And I started off just totally behind UFL. It's a brand new game. I had no other reason to not, have confidence in strikers and UFL. And I was the type of player, and still am, that is going to give you 100% support until you give me a reason not to. Hence why now everything you see is pretty scathing as far as strikers and UFL goes, because they gave me a million reasons why my confidence, should not be held in their corner. With that being said, I didn't really foray into eFootball, and when I gave it a chance to pass 2 times, it was just kind of turn it on, play real quick. Didn't really give the game any respect to learn it, right? It was just like, change the controls, the FC controls, see what happens, and you can't play eFootball that way. Like I've said, it's a totally unique experience, and I just did a pretty big, more like a vlog type of thing on my Discord, because I like to keep track of my journey. And obviously there's feedback given, not just on Discord, but I wanted to do a video on this too, because why, the big question would be, if you hear everything I've said about eFootball, the good things, because when eFootball is good, it is great, right? But then when you hear all these good things, you got to ask yourself, why is it so far behind FC? Like, no one has ever, since back in 05, 06, not even close since it's been rebranded, not even close even when it was PES for all those years, outside of 05 and 06, like right around there. Maybe let's even give it 07, but I believe by 07 it was done. But why all these years and there's nothing that anybody ever talks about with eFootball coming close? The numbers show it, the reviews, everything. eFootball is a very distant second place. But then you hear all these good things from me and from some others, but why then would it never touch FC? You have to ask that. And I pretty much have the answer. So all those good things you hear me say, they're absolutely true. You can see a lot of it here. But with the good then comes the bad. And the bad part is that as you get higher up, the overpowered defense, which the lower level players like myself right now, right? We're not able to fully comprehend just how powerful the defense is. Like, I can see where it can be, and I've said it in my previous videos, but my ability to utilize it doesn't unleash its full power, if that makes sense, which makes the game actually more playable and more attractive. Now, when you get further up, even if maybe, let's say, the 1%ers, right, of eFootball, just like the Anders Vergangs and like the Techs and those guys, who sometimes could even take bad versions of FIFA in the past and FC in the past and make them at least look decent and sometimes even good. But unfortunately, that 1% doesn't represent the player base, right? Just like that 1% of the most wealthy doesn't represent a vast majority of the country. It's just two different things, right? Living totally different ways. And so what you then find is, underneath that 1%, you have many players who lack skill, lack ability, right? What we call rats, which for those of you who play UFL, you guys know what that looks like in UFL. For those of you in pre-patch FC, you know what that looks like there. It was those players that would take advantage of the broken defense. eFootball has a similar problem, just with different mechanics. See, in eFootball, not only can you hold the R1 button, for AI defensive assistance, and they get sort of a speed boost in eFootball, but you yourself can control a defender and hold down the X button and pressure the opponent, and it becomes just a crazy rush at the player with the ball. Now, if you're not good at it, which I'm not yet, you're going to end up diving in. The player's going to pass right around you. Sometimes if you don't choose to use your AI and you try to manually defend, you will get diced up, right? So the trick is, it's a combination of knowing when to use your AI, pressuring the opponent immediately, and then forcing them sort of into where you can then hold your pressure button down, which is the pass button, and then take the ball from the opponent, or sometimes the AI just takes it anyway. Now, when you get higher up the ladder, you'll have players that can be terrible at passing, terrible at shooting, terrible at anything skill-based, but they get the ball stolen from them and they immediately have guys rushing at you, and they become just good at utilizing that R1, AI assist defense with the pressure, defense of your own control player. Once they just utilize that to its fullest extent, sometimes combined with the little bit of delay, which I said this earlier too, in eFootball, servers are much better than FC. The problem is that FC moves at such a pace that when their servers are bad, you can still at least endure it, and it's a terrible experience, but you can endure it. In eFootball, even the slightest lag, the slightest delay, and the whole entire game's ruined. Because it's hard enough, you have to be quick enough in choosing the pass you're going to make and already having it set up. Otherwise, you'll get the ball stripped. Once you add that little bit of delay, now you're never going to get a pass off. So it just becomes a matter of time before the opponent just steals the ball and goes in on goal. It's just a matter of time. Literally, you can even try to just clear it the whole time, and because of that little bit of delay, which is few and far between, but when it does happen, that little bit of delay will throw you so far off, it's just unplayable. So if you're not understanding what I'm saying, even though the servers are much, much, much better, because of the gameplay of eFootball and the slowness of the passing and stuff compared to the overpowered speed boost of the defense, even though it's much better servers, they might as well be just as bad as FC, because just that little bit of delay throws the entire game out the window as far as having any skill tied to it, right? Now, with that being said, even without the delay, you're going to run into those players. So the exact comment was, eFootball, once you get into the higher divisions, is nothing but AI defense and double boosted attackers that are unstoppable. You either have to pay to get those type of players, or you're just going to get smashed because the defense is so strong, right? They're already double boosted. They already have all these crazy defensive abilities, right? And then you add on top of that the OP defense, with the AI assistance and the pressure button. You add that on top of it, and it becomes like, okay, this is impossible. Unless you have double boosted players and double boosted attackers that just have those. When you have the AI, skills, your players are able to do certain things. Like, I'll give you an example. Say you make a tackle, and any other time you would have stole the ball away from an opponent. But you have an opponent that has put money into the game and they have all double boosted players. Or maybe they've been playing the game forever. Whichever way, you just go up against a double boosted player and you steal the ball the exact same way that you would normally win it. Well, this time the player has some type of AI skill, right, where they fight back and win the ball from you. Okay? Those kind of little things. Situations where you normally run down an attacker and you have a good angle on them. All of a sudden this player has, some type of skill where they do an extra little boost and now they continue their run forward. Those boosts matter. Those additional skills matter, right? So that's where, I've played a Roberto Baggio who's insane, I've heard, in eFootball, and I could tell. I've only played him once or twice, and obviously there's different versions, but literally every touch he made something happen, either scored or assisted, and there was just no point. Certain Maradonas, each and every one of these things lends to a non-skill based experience, and that's where games start falling off. Now, there's a ton of skill to be good in eFootball, but the point is that as you get higher and you get more players who put all this money in, I always give the example, that ties to what a lot of commenters who aren't fans of eFootball, Nick runs the foot market, was playing eFootball, and he was going for Gareth Bale. He himself was talking about how bad eFootball is, the bad state that it's in. And I don't know if he wanted to do this for an example or whatever, but obviously he knows it's ridiculous. He basically said, check this out. $200 basically guaranteed him Gareth Bale. Now, I might be a little off here or there, but essentially this is what happened. He kept doing the get X amount of players, get 10 players, whatever, until he finally got Gareth Bale. And then it ended up being $200. You could look the video up and see the exact details. But that kind of thing is crazy because even though it's much cheaper than FC, right, I can take a full free team that I have right now and still compete at the top. And This is post-patch. Now, pre-patch, it wasn't as much like that. You needed that finesse shot plus. You needed that power shot plus, as well as having upper stats in those shooting areas and top defenders. Sometimes you needed Van Dijk to score those near-post headers. Like, you needed those players that could, max out on the exploits, because that's how you won games. And it all came from the defense being broken, right? They've since fixed that. So now I can take my team and play an all-team of the year team. And yes, if we're neck and neck, they're going to have the advantage. But if I outskill that player, if I'm better manually defensively, if I'm better manually in my attack, right, create better chances, utilize manual runs, player lock, the whole nine, then I'm going to win. It doesn't matter if I don't have any team of the years, because I don't. In eFootball, that's absolutely not the case, right? If I take this free-to-play team, because I felt it before, even in Division 3, 4, 5, even playing in a lower level against other lower-skill players that, I'm out-passing, I'm making better decisions, I'm reading their plays, I could still get stomped because they simply can pressure the heck out of me, and then on the attack, they just have much better players. So they're going to run right around my defense. Every shot they take is going to be a goal, and I'm barely going to be able to get a pass off. That's the reason why eFootball is in such a distant second place. Why is it so important for me to point this out? Because as I'm saying all these good things, for one, I'm not going to be a hypocrite and say I'm going to be honest, the good, the bad, the ugly, and then only talk about the good things, and when bad things happen, ignore it. I already didn't do that with UFL, and I'm not going to do it with eFootball, especially because these players who've had these bad experiences and who are warning me about it, and then I'm saying good things, like, I'm not just going to leave that out as if they don't know what they're talking about, or if they're, sore losers or whatever. I mean, it's exactly true. All the good stuff is true. This game has so many satisfying things about it. The beautiful passing, the beautiful sequences that lead to some amazing goals, the realistic movements, which eFootball, in my opinion, matches the real-life player movements to their in-game movements and animations better than any other game. Like, all these things are awesome, but that underlying factor where the defense, it's just super overpowered, and when you add that to the crazy amount of money that you'd have to put in just to be able to compete in the upper levels, so you can even just breathe on the field. I'm talking without getting 5 players in your face and the ball taken. That's the crazy part. Now, I'm not saying FC isn't super expensive, but I absolutely can compete at the top, because I do, and I do not have to put a single penny in, especially with the evolutions, the SBCs, these different challenges. More than ever, FC is, they actually should take UFL's moniker right now, because you can absolutely be free to play and play at the top. It wasn't like that always, and it's still going to cost you a lot if you want your R9s and your Hullets, who I just packed the Prime version. Sometimes can't use them because of the lag, so by no means am I saying FC's perfect. But for these reasons, even though I'm saying all these good things about eFootball, that's why it's so far back in second place. If you didn't hear this, what I'm saying now, you'd be scratching your head after I've said so many good things about it. Well, you got to talk about the other things too, because I don't want you to start playing eFootball and not, expect what's coming. Now, what I don't know as far as what's coming is if and when the journey totally ends for me. Let me explain. Finish off with the game, and it was just total disaster. I mean, the player made bad pass after bad pass after bad pass, terrible decisions. You could see the skill was low, which is probably why he's in the lower division. Except on my end, no matter what I could do, I could not generate anything. And he didn't even have a full team of boosted players. He definitely out-teamed me, but a lot of them do. He simply used those little details to his advantage. I mean, the certain pressure tactics, right? Made it to where I couldn't really get the ball out of my half. Once he got into attack, he knew how to take advantage. Even though he made 17 bad passes, he knew how to make sure that he got the ball back in the right areas. And then you would have to just watch and see, right? It doesn't matter if I played perfect defense. If I then go to make my next pass and he's got 5 players coming at me or blocking out my team further up the field, then he gets the ball back anyway, and eventually he's going to poke one through. And you tend to have that. Like, it doesn't matter if you made the right decisions. There's ways to mark players out. Maybe he's man marking or doing type marking on certain. There's little things that I don't even know yet, so I don't want to try to explain it and be wrong. Just know that there is that ability to utilize that team that you paid to get, or just that team that you got overtime and is better than the other free-to-play team. Let's just say that. Not even assuming that every player is putting in money. Well, they're going to utilize that to their advantage, and there's ways to not have skill and then, be able to pretty much ruin the game because you're going to win anyway there. In my opinion, ruin the game. So, what I don't know is if that's all I'm going to face from now on, in which case I'll be done with eFootball, right? Because that's what I was warned would happen. I'm going to take it with a grain of salt, though, not because I don't trust the commenters that told me that, but because up until this recent promotion, I've had a few of these types of games where I was just like, uh-oh, and I kind of assumed the writing's on the wall, but I had enough positive experiences. I was like, well, it's not there yet. Now, the game I just played and then the one before it had a taste of it. I'm wondering if even Division 4, right, is to the point where it becomes just a eFootball, what they would call, just like the FC, but in the eFootball way, a sweat fest. In which case, the skill goes away and, that's just not for me. And if that's the case, as of now, that would leave one football game that's actually skill-based, which is FC, only because they did that major patch. So, I've heard Konami, never goes all the way in the right direction. Like, sometimes they'll do good stuff. Sometimes they'll, go in circles. That's what I've heard. Sometimes they'll just do some unexplained dumb things, which we all know how football gaming companies are. They all have that in common. But they just can't seem to turn that corner to get away from where they're at with this. So, we will see. I will keep you posted, but I just wanted to give this detailed explanation because I love eFootball, right? And I'm so new to this whole thing, but, first you play AI, then you face regular opponents, which I talked about this in my last jump into eFootball. Like how all of a sudden you can see all these good things against the AI and see all these great animations and where they're going with the good football, and then you face, user opponents, other players, and you see wow. So this defense particularly totally ruins all the good stuff. And it's kind of where I'm getting at. That's like the basis for it. And it seems like that's the case for every game that gets ruined. A broken defense obviously makes it so the attack's no fun, and then you have a broken football game. It's kind of where we're at, especially those players who can utilize this crazy overpowered defenses. You kind of seen a little preview of it there, even in a game where I was dominating. Just the way that defender is able to close that space like that. So you imagine that with a really good player and doing it the 100% right way. You can imagine with top players too, double boosted players against, especially like you see here, a free-to-play team. You can imagine how brutal that could get. So losing my voice, I hope I made sense. I know I'm kind of rambling, but I got to give it every way. Good, bad, everything in between. So with that being said, keep grinding, keep having fun. We'll see where this journey goes. Until next time, peace out.